Hello, and welcome back to the Crazy Courage Business Stories podcast. We are here with Helen Stoumbos. She has done a lot in her life, and it has all led up to where we are today. She is putting on a festival called the Good Games. Now, I think the Good Games and festival need a little bit of an explainer. I'm going to hand it over to Helen so she can really explain what she's got going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is a really unique concept. I've never seen anything like it. We have two parts basically. We have one part is like the athletes and the athlete competition. So we have athletes coming from all over North America to compete in 12 different sports. And the part that we're really trying to get out is that there's also attached to it is an Olympic style festival. And what I mean by an Olympic style festival, it's all sports focused, it's all interactive, experiential. We host a lot of amazing events in the festival, like the Canadian Freestyle Soccer Championships, the Canadian Tech Ball Championships. We have the Canadian National Pickleball League, the pro pickleballers coming to compete at our event.
So
And
that's 5 times fast. Pro
yeah,
pickleball.
it's crazy. Like pickleball, and not only do we host the pros, but our own amateur competition right now is like 312 registered pickleballers coming to compete from all over Ontario. So it's really kind of a different concept because I guess you could say it's kind of like the Calgary Stampede, where
Yeah.
the Stampede has a rodeo where
Yeah.
there's people competing in the rodeo, but most people go there for the festival. And similar to us, we have sports competitions and, anybody's welcome to come, but the festival itself, free to attend, free parking, and I mean, anything and everything you can think of that you might want to watch, that you might want to just experience and try out yourself. You might want to play. I mean, we even do three-legged races and potato sack races.
Wow.
Anything you can think of. This year we have Squash Ontario running some squash activations. We have Rope Skipping Ontario coming to run some showcases and learn to play rope skipping. I mean, we have Riot Acts coming. We have a virtual reality boxing. We're building a pickleball court right in the middle of our
Oh,
festival.
wow.
I know, and we're having like learn to play pickleball. And I think the coolest part of our festival, and I guess I would say it's our main stage. You know how music festivals have, different music stages. Our main stage is a
Yeah.
beach volleyball court. So we actually build an actual official Olympic size style beach volleyball court. And in that beach volleyball court, we
So
actually have
cool.
former Olympians, former pros, some of the best athletes out there competing. And you can come for free and watch it and enjoy it. Or you can just walk around the festival and try all the different sport activities that are out there for you. We have a 175-foot inflatable obstacle course. We have a big 3v3 inflatable put up, and we have the Indigenous Sport and Wellness Council of Ontario running some Learn to Play Lacrosse and some lacrosse speed challenges. We have golf tee competitions. We have cornhole. I mean, literally, you name it. When it has anything to do with activity, I think it's at our event. And what I love is I never wanted barriers to entry for families. I think sport has the power to
Nice.
transform lives. It has for me. And I think that any family that can come and not have to, throw out any money for it and just come enjoy a really amazing sports festival. And you never know. You never know who gets inspired, whether it's an adult or or a
Yeah.
child. You never know. So I think it's a very unique event. I always have a hard time explaining it because I feel like it's
There's
never
so
been
much.
done before, at least not that I
Yeah.
know of. That's my
And there's so many things, right? It's crazy.
how's that for my elevator pitch?
It's great. I love that. I can't wait to go. Uh, Now, I mean, it sounds like if I was like a 10-year-old kid and I was trying to figure out what sport I wanted to get into or try out, this is where my parents would take me, so I
Yeah,
could try out all sorts of different things.
yeah, you can, and it's just fun. Like I think what we noticed last year was we didn't you never know what the uptake's gonna be. You put out something like a cornhole unit or you put up a volleyball court, whatever, and we leave balls there. Is anybody gonna do it? Like that was always
Right?
like, is anybody gonna do it? Let's see what happens. And I was always surprised, like nobody on their phone and everybody just having a really, really good time. So I love that, families can just get out, kids can get out, adults can get out and just enjoy a weekend and be as active as you want to be. Or if you don't want to, we have, music, DJ, a dance party on Saturday night with an opening ceremonies like an Olympic Games. We have
Wow.
beer gardens. Harvey's is running a barbecue for us. So literally almost everything you can think of is there and everything that has a festival has. But we just add a lot more sport to it.
I can't believe that's all packed into 2 days. I don't know how you guys are doing it. I mean, like, I think you were saying you'd have to pick and choose because there's just so much going on, but I think you can't make a wrong decision. They're all good choices, right?
Yeah, it's funny. Originally, when we were doing the festival, the original plan with the festival was, hey, let's create a festival for the athletes because we have all these athletes coming. And then last year, when I was there, and one of my friends came from Kitchener Waterloo, just half an hour away from me, and she was like, "Oh my goodness! Like you realize you have some of the best volleyball players in Canada playing in your volleyball competition, beach volleyball competition." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And so she ended up calling like her nephews, her brother, and everybody drove in. And I went, "Wow! This is worthy of people traveling to."
No kidding. Yeah.
So the
So even the
emphasis
athletes are a draw. That's great.
Yeah, so that really kind of put a lot more emphasis for us to kind of really look at that festival part and seeing
Yeah.
how we can grow that festival part. And every time I talk to people about it, like when I talk to on Para or I talk to Squash Ontario or Rope Skipping Ontario, everybody's like, "Oh my God, this sounds like so much fun! Like a whole sports festival." And because I think it's anybody that loves sports and loves being active, loves being entertained, I don't know if you're going
Sure.
to find a better venue than this.
Yeah, no kidding. So okay, let's talk about a couple of the sports that are going to be there.
Sure.
That well, one pickleball, right?
Yes.
That's the new
Oh,
buzzword everywhere, right? You hear that talk everywhere you go in any neighborhood in probably most cities these days. I think it's everywhere. It's such a huge sport that I don't think most people had heard of a couple of years ago, and now it's just exploded.
yeah, it's crazy. Like, but we were launching originally in 2020, and when we were going to launch in 2020, we had pickleball, and we were going to do a series because we had so many people saying, "What's pickleball? This is like 4 years ago." And
Right?
I'm not kidding you. Within 2 years, it's like everybody knows pickleball now. It's
Yeah.
blown up so much, and we're we're now contemplating adding 5 more pickleball courts because we're capacity. So I think we're like everybody wants to participate and everybody wants to play. And it's kind of fun that they're playing right beside the pros. Like the pros are in one gym, and then right beside them, the amateurs are playing, and the amateurs
So
get to
cool.
go watch the pros. So it's kind of a fun combination
Nice.
of both competing in the same spot. So
No
yeah, I
kidding.
mean now we're looking at adding more pickleball courts because we're pretty much at capacity already.
Wow. 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 That's so awesome. Now, so cornhole, I mean, I expect most people are familiar with that, right? That's pretty popular backyard game. It's been around forever. You throw in the pouches with the bean bags at a board with a hole in it, right? Easy enough. Simple sport. I think most people know about that, but I don't think a lot of people necessarily know. Like if you tell me tech ball, I don't know necessarily what that would be.
Yeah. So with cornhole and disc golf and some of the sports that we included in our competition side, I always wanted to include maybe sports that didn't get to participate in multi-sport games. So I just to let them have that experience because it is really different when you go to an event and you're playing an event with athletes from different sports playing there.
Yeah, yeah.
So we wanted to add the cornholes and the disc golfs and arm wrestling and all the unique sports because I thought you don't see them at multi-sport games very
No,
often.
not usually.
So that's kind of why we included that. And then tech ball. So part of our entertainment in our festival
Yeah.
is hosting really cool and unique events. So we're hosting the Canadian Freestyle Soccer Championships, which is all the guys that do the tricks with the ball. Actually, we have a 15-time Guinness World Record holder from Venezuela. She's coming to our
Wow.
event, and then she's one of the judges, and she'll be performing as well. But then this year, we also decided to include the Canadian Tech Ball Championships. And like you said,
Yeah.
I don't know if a
Tech
lot of
ball.
people know about it, but once you research Tech Ball, TEQBALL, it's the second fastest growing sport in the world next to cricket. And it's the second
Wow.
most watched sport in the world on social media. And it's literally guys or girls doing incredible things with a soccer ball on like a ping pong slash table tennis, but it's curved. And once you look it up and see it, it's pretty incredible. So we've had athletes coming from across Canada to compete, and you know what? People can come watch it. It's free to come watch. I think that's the fun part. You get to come
I
to
think
this festival and
yeah.
watch some of these really cool, unique events that you might not have had an opportunity to watch.
So much to see. So
So
much to
much.
see. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So let's take a little down memory lane. I think now I don't think this is your first time being involved in sports, right? I think
No,
sports have been part of your life for a little while.
Yeah, sport is
How far
pretty.
back do you have to go? Like, were you still
uh,
in diapers? Like, what when you remember picking a ball, what was the
No, not quite. I think I picked
not
up
quite.
soccer a little bit later than what I think kids do now. I was maybe 10 or 11.
Okay.
But, it was a sport that I always say, listen to your kids and trust your kids when they say they love something, because
Okay.
it was as soon as I touched a soccer ball, I was in love. Like I
Right.
was just I couldn't get enough of it. I mean, my dad would be eating dinner after work and I'd wait at the stairs being like, come on, dad, let's go play soccer." And every day, everybody, got to know my dad drove a big brown Chevy, and we would drive to the bowl, Centennial Bowl, which is where soccer's played every night. And we would go watch a game. And then after the game, my dad would be out on the field, picking up garbage and using them as cones. And I'd be, touching the ball with the inside of the foot, the outside of the foot. And I literally, if I could do that 24/7, I wanted to do it 24/7.
Wow.
And I think we all know, like, I think we have an internal compass to tell us what feels good and what feels right and what direction we should go. And I think sometimes
Right.
we don't listen to it, but kids are more in tune with it. And I think when I mean, I would try other things before that. Like I did piano lessons, I hated it. I mean, I did other things, I hated them. And I think sometimes my parents wanted me to love them.
Yeah,
I
sure,
hated
sure.
them. But it was soccer that I fell in love with. And even like my mom, we come from a traditional Greek family, and she would be like, "When are you going to learn to cook and clean and be a good housewife instead of kicking the ball?" And
That's
I
funny.
just was like, I love it. And luckily my dad was, loved me playing. And I remember there'd be times where I'd sprain an ankle or do something, and we had kind of like two floors at our house, and my dad would be like, "Don't come downstairs and don't let your mom see you." He didn't want her to know that I got injured. But, it was when you love something, you just love it, and you just want to it's not an effort to participate or to play or to train. It's part of what your passion is. And I think if I was to weave my story of my life, I would say, I did a TEDx talk called Destination Happy. And
Yeah.
for me, what that means is literally just following that inner feeling of what feels right and trusting it and going with it, even when the world might tell you not to do it. And I've had that many times. I had many people tell me I would never play on the national team because I was too small. Um, and I think when it's in you, it's in you, and
No kidding.
yeah, I think you got to trust it. And I'm really that's my big. I feel like what I want to share with the world is really listen to that inner calling, that inner voice, even if it doesn't make sense to anybody else, and other people are telling you that's crazy, that's nuts. How are you going to do it? How? I'll tell you, I had no how with games, none, zero, zilch. When I started this in 2017, 18, thinking about it and how this would look, I had no how,
No.
absolutely no how. And I
Wow.
just felt it. And
You felt it was right. Yeah.
I just felt it. And I even say I kind of create things a little bit differently when I'm putting on an event or something. I actually create with what the feeling is I want people to come away with it from.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, sure.
yeah, like I'm like, what do I want people to feel? And I'm like, I want people to come to this event and be like, "Oh my God, that was the like most amazing event I've ever been to," or, "That was such a cool event and I had so much fun." And I feel like that when you create from feeling, it flows. And
Yeah, then you just reverse engineer that, right? So
yes.
how did I get that feeling, right? Sure,
Yeah.
sure. That makes so much sense. I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Now, you're being humble, of course, because I mean, you played soccer, but you didn't just play soccer. You were, you hit some pretty high level soccer that you were playing.
Yeah, yeah, I did. I played for Canada for many years, and even my story playing for Canada, I don't know how much you want me to go into it, but
No,
it's
go
got
for it. Yeah, this is all.
okay.
I love
Well,
the
it's got
story.
its own
Yeah.
drama with it. So it's funny, I always love sharing my struggles. I think that
Yeah.
everybody
Okay.
needs to hear what struggles you go through, because sometimes I feel like when you've had some success as an athlete, like maybe kids might look at you and think, she just must have been naturally confident
Yeah.
and naturally, whatever. And I was I had a successful like career growing up through the system. And I remember when we had our first regional camp and the provincial coaches came out and they rated me the top player and I was the captain of my team. But something changed when I made the national team, and I don't know what happened, but I lost all my confidence. Like I
Really.
literally, yeah, like I just felt like I didn't belong there. Like, I was like, oh my God, like these players are all so
Oh,
good.
that
And
imposter syndrome.
yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah, yeah, big time. And I remember being like, I remember being at practice and like sometimes looking around like a third person observing and being like, what's wrong with me? Like, why is everybody else so confident? And why am I so nervous? And even when I made it onto the national team, I was a starter. Like from like the minute I got on the team, I became a
Right?
starter. And then I don't know, I always felt like I wasn't good enough. I mean, I remember playing in the World University Games and we were playing against China in the semifinals. And the night before the game, I felt so bad for my roommate because I would get so I was having panic attacks and anxiety that I would turn
Really?
on my
Wow.
light in the room. Like I was, we were in dorms at McMaster
Yeah.
University, and I would read a bit of my book just to calm myself down. But as soon as I turned off the light, I was just like my anxiety was up again. So that kind
Yeah.
of went with me. Like honestly, that was how I was living, and it was 1995. It was the year of the World Cup, and that's what we all trained to play in the World Cup, and that's everybody's dream. And we were training in Hamilton McMaster University, and we had our training camp the first week, and then the coach was selecting the squad to go on the pre-World Cup tour. So the World Cup tour, every time before a World Cup, you do all these pre-games. So you travel around. We were traveling around the world, playing in a whole bunch of matches just to get ready for the World Cup. And so she comes up to me after the first week and she was like, you didn't make the team. And so it was interesting because I actually think about it. I'm like, I feel like it was part of me was like, oh, of course I didn't. Cause I've been like, I shouldn't have been here the first place.
Oh, I see.
Right. And then part of me was like, what? I didn't make the team. I've been playing as a starter since I made the team. So she said to me, because I lived in Guelph and, 45 minutes from Hamilton, she said, look, I want you to like I came home, the team stayed at McMaster, but she's like, I want you to still come and train with the team in case somebody gets injured. So I was driving back and forth. I was kind of the outcast now because everybody's staying as a unit and I'm the only one driving back and forth
Oh,
from home. And so
right.
by the end of the second week, somebody got injured. And so we were heading to France for the first round of our tour and playing against France in a tournament in Italy, I think. And so my sister kind of knew what I struggled with. And she gave me a book called As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And the
Great.
book was all about the power of your thoughts. And it's a really small read. It's short, but it's beautiful. It's poetic. And I remember sitting on this bus in France. And it was the first time I actually realized that I couldn't believe I never realized I controlled my thoughts. I always just thought they were just in my head. And I never really thought about it. And then I remember sitting on this bus and I was like, you mean it's me saying I'm not good enough? Like it's not my dad or my coaches or the teammates. And I don't know this. It was like a literally a light bulb moment. It just
Really?
something
Wow.
clicked in my head. Yep. And I literally on that bus in France, I said, I'm not letting my mind control me. I'm going to control my mind. And at the end of that tournament, I was one of the top players for Canada.
Wow.
And my coach came up to me and said, I don't know what happened to you, but like the best thing I did was cut you. Now she didn't know I read this book, but
Yeah.
I literally switched to the point where, I went to the World Cup in 95. And it was so funny because, I had coaches from Europe following me around to get me to play pro in their clubs. And that was never me. It was always like Charmaine Hooper. And so the drastic change by just switching my mind. And I love that story because I don't know if you can get a better example of how powerful our minds are
I
because I didn't
get it.
change as a player. I
No.
didn't get fitter. I wasn't technically a better player within a week
Right.
or
Right.
two. I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
controlled my mind and that's kind of led me on my self-discovery, I guess. And every book I have in my bookshelf is all about the mind, the power of the mind. I listen to some sort of talk every single morning on that. It's the way I have to start my day. And I think it's a great it's something I really wish more kids would learn in school because we don't realize that this controls this.
Yeah. And
And
mental health's such a big thing these days.
sure is. And I've been through my struggles and the one thing that always gets me out of it is tapping into, what is it that makes me happy? And sometimes that's really hard to figure out. But if I look at my life
Sure.
and I think soccer made me happy and that's what made me feel good. And then, I got into a down spell after my career. And I remember sitting down and being like, I read a book and it said, what's one thing you can do tomorrow that makes you happy? And I literally sat there and I didn't even know what one thing that made me happy was at that point.
No.
Yeah, it was really weird. It's like, you almost when you get into that dark space, it's really hard. I actually painted my whole house dark brown. That's how dark I was. Like,
Wow.
I was in a dark place, and I remember reading this book, and I sat with that question, like, what's one thing I can do tomorrow? And I remember sitting and going, okay, well, I couldn't play soccer anymore because I had a knee injury. But
Right.
I went, okay, what else? I love sport. I love social. I love being with teams. I love sport. So I was like, okay, I can play volleyball. Like, I'm a good setter. I played in high school and I love it. And so as hard as it was, I found a volleyball league in my area. I sent them an email. You feel always a little bit awkward when you go to
Yeah.
play in a
Yeah.
new league or a new thing, and
Yes.
funny enough, like, they were full. So she's like, "Sorry, we're full." And like a week later, she sends me a note. She's like, "You know what? Somebody canceled. Do you want to get in?" And I was like, "Oh my god, yes!" And that literally changed the whole trajectory of my life again, because I started being around things I loved, people I enjoyed, and all of my friends now are literally my volleyball friends, and that's who I ended up growing my circle around. And that's what got me out of my space, was just figuring out, what is it that I really love and enjoy, and what does make me happy. And unfortunately, I think we lose touch of that so many times because we don't focus on happy. We're so focused on what we have to do and work and this and that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, start with
Yep.
happy. Start with happy.
Go back to the basics. Keep it simple,
Yeah.
right?
So basic. We do it as
Yeah.
kids.
So so I think it's fair to say when we look at any high level athlete, you see like the hockey players, the Olympians, soccer players, volleyball, any sport. You look at any individual, there's a family behind them that supported them to get to where they are, right? Is that like that's got to be fair to say? Like, I can't see someone getting to your level of sport without having a support system in place,
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I had my dad who was,
right?
my biggest support system. And I think that, I don't think you realize as a kid how important that is, or what contributions they're making in your life, because you're just so self-absorbed as a
You don't
child,
know.
right?
Yeah, yeah, right. You have no idea. But looking back,
No,
right?
no. And I
Right?
remember, my dad was really hard on me. So I remember always being kind of like frustrated with him because, I could have scored 10 goals in a game, and he'd get in the car with me and be like, but you want to know what you did wrong? And so for a long time, I think I would see he was so hard on me. Maybe that's why I didn't have confidence, because,
Right, right.
he was pushing me. But then, as you
Yeah,
got older and you look back at it and you think, holy moly, like, he worked in a factory, a very blue collar, hardworking man, and, up early, but was driving me to Scarborough for games at 9 o'clock at night, coming home at midnight and getting up to go to work,
right,
and taking me to soccer practices in Toronto, York University, or Hamilton on weekends. I'm sure he was happy when I got my driver's license. Um, but then I started to go, wow, you don't really appreciate in those moments what
no,
their contribution was. And I did realize it. And, I think once you realize it, and I know when I did interviews about, getting inducted, I got inducted to the Hall of Fame, and it was always about him, because I'm like, there's only one person you could really look at that
right.
trained me, that coached me, that drove me, and I'm lucky I had it, because I know there are some kids that don't have that. And so,
No, and I don't know that you could hit that high level of performance or athleticism without someone in your corner or a team. Like
yeah,
just to have that support, like it.
yeah,
And
yeah, 100%.
so another thing you touched on was, the night before, you're talking about how you had a lot of anxiety before a big game. Because I think there's a lot of talk about, okay, well, what's your game day routine, right? You get up, you have breakfast, you go for a run or whatever, all that stuff. But and it's funny you tell your story, because I'm looking at these athletes and I'm thinking, when they're any high level athlete, and I'm thinking, how did he get any sleep the night before? Like, how are they just not exhausted the day of? Because I'm thinking, what would I do, right? I'd be
Yeah.
just panic.
Yeah, so I would say when I was in my phase where I didn't have any confidence, I
Yeah,
was having a
right,
really hard time sleeping. And again, once I realized that I was in control of my mind, uh,
yeah,
it the drastic change was like literally like, before I was like not sleeping, I was having anxiety and panic attacks. Then
yeah,
when I realized I was creating the thoughts in my head, I mean,
yeah.
I was sleeping like a baby. And I was,
Really? Wow.
yeah, it was like, it was so weird. Like I remember we went to Japan in that same time right before the World Cup, and I
Yes.
just remember sitting in the hotel and just sleeping like a baby and just feeling like calm and at ease. And I loved playing, and I loved playing in front of crowds, and it's like literally I just think it was a I think it's totally a mind game. Like the whole thing
Yeah,
is
for
a
sure.
mind game. I think when you're an athlete, and any athlete that's playing at a high level, if you ask me, because everybody's so good, I actually think the difference is how you deal with your mind, and that's the difference.
Yeah, for like, yeah, how you can focus and just stay present, right? I assume is a big part of it. Um, you know, did you feel different on the field after you had that shift in
100%.
perception?
I
Yeah.
I remember going on the field in Japan. Like in particular, I remember this game in Japan because I remember getting on the field and just being so calm. And I had this knowing that I was like, I know I'm going to have a great game. And
Nice.
I just, you know, yeah, it was like I wasn't nervous. I mean, I think you always have a little bit of nerves when you're going to play, but I was more, it was more the positive nerves, not the negative nerves.
Like excitement, like that
Yeah,
kind
like,
of,
I'm ready
yeah,
to play, and
yeah,
and
yeah.
I remember that game in Japan and just being like, I feel confident. I had a knowing that I couldn't explain. I felt really good, and even in the World Cup when I went to play in the first game, I just felt really good. I wasn't nervous. I was
Wow,
calm.
that's so
So
awesome. Wow,
yeah, but I
that is
mean, what a
so
drastic
fantastic.
change.
Yeah, and like you said, I think that makes a big difference how you deal with what's in your head. And
Mhm.
yeah,
It
yeah,
should be a course in schools, if you ask me.
I think there should be a lot of yeah, a lot of work for mental health, especially when we're young, right? Start
Yeah,
start us off young, get us thinking the right way early on. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, now you played soccer for a long time. You grew up knowing soccer, breathing soccer. But then you got injured and then
Yep,
you weren't feeling too hot about yourself and you're trying to
yep.
find the good. So what was the next phase like? What came after soccer?
So I was really lucky because when my career ended, I was training with the team for the World Cup in '99, and that's when I came home to have knee surgery and found out I couldn't play again.
Yeah,
And at that time, it was with I think the first time they were bringing on like they wanted a female commentator for women's soccer, and so
nice.
I ended up becoming for about 10 years I did commentating, and I got into television. I was hosting TV shows. I felt like, and it's funny because I think for those like that period of time, because I was still involved with the sport, I never felt like I lost it. Where
Okay.
a lot of athletes talk about, that depression you get when you finish your sport and you don't know who you are.
Right, right.
I got into television and, so I was still around soccer. So my kind of low came after that period of my life was ending when
Oh,
I was like,
really?
yeah, it
Okay.
was like kind of delayed, delayed. And I was like, ooh, like, okay, like who am I now? Like who am I
Yeah.
without soccer? And that was when I felt like I had to reinvent myself and kind of go back to who am I? What do I love? What do I love to do? And I ended up working in another production company with a great business partner that was a very well known executive producer for sport, and so we ended up working on a lot of sports events, and sport was kind of my life. We worked with Canada Sports Hall of Fame. We worked
Nice.
on the FIFA World Cup when it was here in, way back. We worked with the Olympic Committee. And so really kind of that became my life, just producing a lot of sports stuff, hosting. I did a soccer series that was on Fox Soccer in the United States, which was super fun.
Nice.
And then as that kind of was kind of coming to an end is when, somebody approached me here in Guelph and kind of was like, we need a sporting event here in Guelph. And I had just come back from the America's Masters Games in Vancouver. It was a multi-sport games there. And, Rob Newman, who was the CEO of the games, was a friend of mine. I knew him. We started talking. So, slowly the ball started rolling. But, again, it was just, I can't even explain why it lit me up, but it was just this is lighting me up. Like it's something in me is saying to do this, even though it made absolutely no sense. None at all.
It's because
And
that hadn't been done, right? There's no
that's
reference
yeah,
point.
I mean, it didn't
Yeah.
make sense, and, I knew I had the how, and I'm like, "I don't know how." And
Yeah.
it's been it's definitely not for the faint of heart. I'll definitely say
No.
that much. It's a lot of effort. It's a lot of late nights and early mornings and very little sleep, especially leading into the games. But I truly, truly feel like it's just such a wonderful thing for people. I
Yeah.
honestly like it. For me, it's bigger than me. It's just about creating something for people to come enjoy and to feel joy and like a great experience. I mean, the women that are coming here to play women's soccer, I actually tear up because I email them quite a bit because
Really?
I'm updating
Wow.
them, and they're so grateful to be able to come participate in a women's soccer tournament, for people from 50 to 80. And I'm like, I'm in tears thinking I'm grateful, like you guys are coming here like to play soccer. And
That's awesome.
um it's just, I love that it's creating a little bit of joy in the world because I think we need it.
Yeah, no kidding. That goes without saying, I think,
Yeah.
for sure. Okay, so 2017, 2018, that's when the ideas started to percolate. There was some sort of model building in your head. But then in 2019, I think, is really when things started to take shape, right?
Yes. Yeah, so we were all set to launch our first event in 2020, and we were originally an
What happened in
oval.
2020? I don't know.
Yeah,
What
what
happened?
happened in 2020?
What was the something happened? I don't remember.
I tell you, I don't know either. Well, so we had opened up our registration, and I mean, we had athletes coming from all over the world, and for
Really?
some reason, we just became a viral. Like people in the master sports world, we were originally over 30, now we're over 20 mostly, and some sports over 50, and some sports over 30. But we had a lot of athletes coming from all over the world, and a lot
Wow.
of hype around it, a lot of support. We were building a really cool event,
Yeah.
and and all of a sudden,
Something
I
happened. Yeah.
yeah, something happened, and I remember when we locked down, and I was like, "This is just going to be for a couple weeks, so we're not going
Yeah,
to."
right, right. Yeah, we'll be back up and running, no problem. Yeah,
And then slowly, as you started to see, like, oh shoot, the Olympic Games are canceling. And then it was like, oh my
yeah.
goodness, yeah,
When
it's
you start
done.
seeing those things being canceled, and they could just look, we can't keep these things on. Like it, yeah, the world shut down. Then that would be a serious reality check, I would think, for anybody else in sport.
Yeah, and events were hit really hard, and we
Yeah,
tried to stay pretty relevant. We did a lot of really unique things. We did a podcast where we were interviewing some pretty good elite athletes, and we ran a campaign with Canada Sports Hall of Fame called My Canadian Moment, which I still think is such an awesome campaign. When we it was the first year in 2020, I believe, when there was no Canada Day and all this. And so we had athletes and celebrities all across Canada sharing their favorite Canadian sport moment and what made them proud to be Canadian. And the stories we got, like with Blue Rodeo and Arlene Dickinson, and I mean, you name it, we got all
wow.
the different athletes and celebrities sharing their favorite Canadian sport moment. And you can find them all online. I think they're all still very great stories. So we tried to stay as relevant as we could. We ran,
Yeah.
I think in 2021, we ran like a virtual campaign where it was called Get Up, Get Out, and Get Moving, where we had an augmented reality app, and we had Olympians, and you were geofenced. So you went to one location and you had to do the exercise the Olympian was telling you to do.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah, it was a really fun event. And it was, kind of, one of the things we could still do
Yeah.
without, obviously with the restrictions we had in place. So everybody could do it at their own pace and share it on social media. And there were prizes for everybody. So we kind of tried to stay really relevant. And then we did like a 1 day event in 2021, I think, just a small event. 2022, we did a modified Canada Day event with the Rotary Club, which was just at one park. We had a few sports playing, but
Okay.
last year was probably kind of our first kick of the can of how we saw this playing out at the university. Because the nice thing about the University of Guelph is, if anybody knows it, the sports facilities are probably the best facilities in Canada, and it's the
Nice.
only place I know of where we have every sport competing and the festival, and everything's within walking distance.
Which
So
is fantastic.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, you're not traveling across town to different venues like you do. Yeah, I mean, the Olympics certainly they have to do stuff all throughout whatever city the host is, but it's nice. Yeah, this is so much better for families if you can just do it all in one place.
Yeah, even the athletes. I remember even the athletes coming this year, and they're just so excited that if they wanted to go watch, slow pitch, they could just walk over the hill. If they want to go watch women's soccer, over the hill. If they want to go watch a trail race, it's up, up the Arboretum, or pickleballs across in the event center. So I think it's, I think that was one thing that really separates this from any other sporting event that I know of that's like this. I mean, when I was in Vancouver for the America's Masters Games, I had to drive an hour from beach volleyball to soccer. And then, right in the middle, Jack Bull Plaza is where they hosted, maybe festivities, but nobody would go. It was just too far away from everything. So just the fact that the athletes are competing where all the athletes are competing, and then there's
Yeah.
also this big fun festival for them to enjoy. And I think the one thing I wanted to do, I wanted this to feel like an Olympic Games for everybody, even though some athletes are Olympians, most of our athletes are amateurs. So doing a march in with a piper, and having a big welcoming ceremony for the athletes and celebrating them, and then having a big outdoor DJ dance party with glow sticks to end the night. I just think it's it's a fun way to celebrate sport, and it's a fun way for athletes just to feel special, and like this
Yeah.
is a one of a kind event. That's kind of what I want them to feel.
So much fun. So much fun. And so last year was really the first, you said, kick at the can, right? First time you
Yeah,
guys really went all out. Were there any fears, doubts? Were there any,
always, every
yeah?
year. Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah, I think that, until you become, like well known, like, the Stampede, everybody knows the Stampede now. So,
Sure.
a lot of our big thing is really trying to get people to understand what this is. Cause sometimes they think, oh, it's just an athlete competition. I'm like, no, 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 no. It's like a sports festival, but nobody knows
Yeah.
what a sports festival is. So
I
yeah, it's really it's kind of a even with how we share on socials and what we explain it is and how we explain it has morphed and changed so much, because you just get this feedback. And when you think people might think we're focused too much on the athletes and the sports, well, we need to
yeah.
flip that, and we need to show that it's entertainment and music and DJ and barbecue, and a normal festival that you could go and watch fun things at. But there's also all the sports stuff happening. So we're still figuring it out. I'm going to be the first to put my hand up and say, have we 100% perfected this? I think we're still learning as we go. It's still fresh and new. And I mean, the nice thing is, like, if I look at some sports like pickleball, for example, when we launched last year, and by May 1st, I think we had 9 pickleball registrations. By May 1st this year, we had 212.
Wow.
And beach volleyball, like last year, we were like trying to get beach volleyball players. This year, we're sold out. We've already sold out our beach volleyball. So I think when athletes have come and experienced it, and they know it, I think
We
they
won't
want to
get
come
around.
see it.
Yeah, yeah.
And now it's just reaching out to the greater festival and the greater community to be like, hey, hey, Hamilton, hey, Toronto, hey, London, Barrie, this is something you can drive to and spend the whole day here, and it'll be the most unique experience you've ever had. So that's kind of where now our messaging is, trying to get people to come and just experience a really fun, unique event that you don't even have to spend any money at. I mean, does it get any better than that?
No, I think the Good Games is such
Oh,
a great name for it. Did you come up with that? So,
I like it too, and it actually is an acronym for get out and outdo. So,
oh, right.
we always
Nice.
thought, we're always just in competition with ourselves. So just get out and outdo yourself, even if it's like, if you're a couch potato that wants to just try, walking more, maybe it's 1 block one day and 3 blocks the next day, but it's just about getting out and outdoing yourself, and just it's you're ever only in competition with yourself, and
Right?
that's pretty much it. And I love the name, and I love that who one of our partners is Good Life. How perfect
Oh,
is
even better.
that?
That's meant to be for sure. That's meant to be. Yeah, it's just the Good Games. It's wholesome. It's fun. It's inclusive. It's for everyone. Top level athletes can come out, get a good competition, put on a good show.
Yeah.
Man, so many things. So many things.
So fun. And we even have wheelchair basketball coming this year, doing a showcase. And honestly, it's like literally as much as we can pack into that weekend, we've attempted
No
to.
kidding. No kidding. It's gonna be a week festival before long, right? It's gonna be
Well,
like the
it
Calgary
might
Stampede.
be, but for
Yeah,
now, I think it's, if people count it, put on their calendars, we always, we're the weekend after Canada Day every year. And I really
right.
want people to be like, hey, every weekend after Canada Day, we're going to the Good Games, period.
Yeah, that's smart, smart. Yeah, plan it like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
build the brand, and then people have the expectations. They know what they're gonna see when they go,
Yeah.
and experience. And like you said, it's all about building the experience, right? So
Yeah,
that's
it
the
sure is.
and I'm sure next year there'll be more sports and more whatever crazy stuff. So Okay, let me ask you this. How long after the good games in 2023 did you start planning 2024?
Right after.
Right after, right?
Like, right after.
Yeah,
Right after, yeah, it was literally like, "Okay, what did we like about it?" Already the team saying, "We're already building for 2025." Like, we know that,
really.
yeah, oh, yeah, well, it's a real it's changing so much because it's so different and so new that after the last event, I think, like I said, I didn't realize that the festival would have as much interest. Like, I didn't know, I wasn't
You never
sure.
know. No, you
But
never
then
know, right?
yeah, like, and then I was like, oh my God, the festival's like really, people really loved it and loved the
So
sport
awesome.
experience. So, we flipped instead of being, only focused on like the athlete competition. Then we went, oh, wait a second, it's the athlete competition plus the festival are equally important. And so that really changed. But yeah, I mean, we go year round because we kind of want this to be more than just a 3-day event. We want it to kind of be a movement for people to just get more active and to be more, healthy and to do whatever they can in their own power to, make themselves healthier. And I
Oh,
truly,
so
truly
important.
believe sport transforms lives. It heals.
Yeah,
It unites. I love that the Indigenous Sport and Wellness Council are coming and they're running an archery competition at our event. And they're integrated within our event. And I just think for me, it's
that's
the
so
one
awesome.
thing that heals for me.
Yeah. Yeah, sport brings people together, right? And
100%.
heals and yeah, it's such a great thing, especially you know how it is these days
Yeah.
with our lives and there's so many screens involved in our lives. We're on a screen right now.
Yeah.
There's phones, there's everything. So it's good to just get out, outdo, right?
Yeah.
That one.
That's
Yeah.
it. Good one.
Yeah, what a great festival. The good games. I can't wait to hear how successful it was. And do you have plans for the future? Like, what do you see this becoming something more different, or you just happy the way it is?
You know what? Right
What are your
now,
thoughts there?
my only focus is this year, and
This year,
I'm
1 year
a
at a
like
time.
single focus. Let's get this event done. Let's make sure this runs well, like a well-oiled
Nice.
machine. And then I think after the event, we can kind of discuss what we see, how we want this to grow, what worked, what didn't work. So I try not
Sure.
to, what I never like seeing the future because I feel like I'm limiting myself by trying to create something I don't know what it is yet.
Well,
And
fair, fair.
so even this, I mean, I had no idea that this is what it would be when we started having the conversations about creating it. And I almost feel like I just wait for that inspiration to direct, and then maybe it's bigger than anything I could ever think of. Maybe it's different. Maybe, so I kind of let things come at me and flow a little bit more than most people. I'm probably not a
Yeah.
traditional, maybe business person because I feel like I create very intuitively. Um,
Yeah.
and I
Well,
feel
why
like,
fight it, right?
yeah, I let it flow and see what, where it takes me. I would have never thought last year that the festival would be as big as it is this year and including as many different events because that's not where my head was until after the event. And then I was like, oh, wait a second. We need that festival to be really a great sports festival.
Yeah. Is this now is it like wait, so we're talking about this year because that's the vision.
Yeah.
Is this far off from what you envisioned back in 2019?
It's a little bit different. So I think in
Different, yeah.
2019, 2020, our event was going to be hosted at the University of Guelph, but we were going to have the like closing down the street downtown and having our
Okay.
festival downtown. And now after we executed it all at the university, I think I like it better because I feel like nothing's far away. And I think
Right.
that the separation, even if it's small, because it's not big. Guelph's not a big city, so even 10 minutes up and down the street, but you
Sure.
still are limiting. Like then you don't have like. I love the fact that if you play a soccer game and you have an hour break, you can just walk to the festival, watch a
Yeah.
beach volleyball game, and then walk back
Sure.
to your sport. So I think that was a big difference, and I think that I wasn't expecting everything to be so well run. Even up until last year, we thought we were going to run the festival downtown again, and then it just
Okay.
didn't work out. And it was like a last minute, "Oh, let's do everything at the university, including the festival." And
So it was
then when
last minute change.
yeah, it was like,
Wow.
2 months before. It was,
Really?
we were doing everything downtown, and then 2
Yeah.
months before, just some things fell through. I had an emergency call with my team, and I was like, what do we do? What do we do? The festival can't be downtown anymore. And then we were on the phone with the University of Guelph, and we're like, we help. We need to get into the parking lot and have an area for the festival. And then once we saw it there, I just was like, oh, this was like a blessing. And this again, when you say, what do you plan? I never planned that. And
Right.
and it was better than I would have expected. And then it made me realize that's the best way to run it.
Yeah, yeah. Right. I mean, why fight it, right? That is they have a sports facility there. Why,
Yeah.
why go
Yeah.
anywhere? So and now, if they're okay with you trucking in all that sand for the beach volleyball, how
Well,
difficult was that conversation?
it wasn't because the group I use, so the guy that runs works on all the Olympic Games. He builds these
Yeah,
all over the world. He just showed me a picture of the beach volleyball court in Paris for the summer. I mean, it's crazy. I
nice.
mean, it literally is cleaner. The parking lot's cleaner than it is when they get there. Like we have sweepers.
Oh, that's
Oh
fantastic.
yeah, it's like clean, spanking clean. Looks great. Like you would never even think we were there.
I didn't even know there was a guy to build
Yeah,
these
I
kind of
know.
stuff. Like, how would you know? You're like, I don't know. Do we just go to the beach, steal some sand? I don't even know, right? Who
No,
do you
and
call for that? Did you Google,
well,
a volleyball court builder guy?
I can't even remember how I found out, but I always knew Hutchison Sand. But I guess he's got some proprietary blend of sand that he only
Proprietary blend of
creates.
sand. That's
Yes,
awesome.
I had no idea, and so he literally every Olympic Games, every big volleyball competition around the world, it's him. He creates the sand. So I asked him about it. Like I was like, so what do you do? Like I'm like, do you travel? Like you take your sand on a plane? Like I don't know what he does. And he's
Yeah,
like,
right.
no,
Like,
yeah, I was wondering that because he's
how do
got
you
like
get it from?
a sand pit, I think, in London and one in Huntsville here. And then he said, no, I
Wow.
actually go into Paris and I create the sand there with whatever proprietary blend he has. But whatever that blend is, apparently it's magic blend because it's the
It's a
only sand
secret.
anybody wants.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's Olympic level sand you're getting. That's
Oh
pretty
yeah.
fantastic.
Well, as soon as you tell like anybody in the volleyball world, and I say, "Hey, we're building a Hutchison sand court," they're all like, "Oh,
Whoa, whoa, this is
okay,
serious
oh,
now. Yeah, this isn't messing
that's
around.
serious. That's serious
Yeah.
stuff."
That's
It
funny.
isn't
That's
cheap. It
awesome.
isn't cheap, but
I
it's
know that, yeah, fair. Proprietary comes with its own
yeah. But
shortcomings.
you know what? I mean, I think if you're going to cut corners, like I'm always a believer that try to do the best, even if it. Okay, our big thing was our beach volleyball court, and that cost us, a lot of money. But that's what a main stage, you pay for a main stage. But I was like,
Sure,
but you got
sure.
to make sure it's done right and properly. And we made some mistakes last year, but you learn from them because I think you
Yeah.
want people to come back. Like I want to
Yeah,
make
yeah, yeah.
sure things run well and people have a great time. The volleyball players love it. And this year we've actually even, upped the court and, added sand to the other courts. And so we've done things to even like ramp up the level of play and field. So I don't know. I think if you're going to do something like try to do the best you can within, of course, the constraints you
Yeah,
have. But I wouldn't want to put a volleyball court with sand that nobody wants to play on.
right?
Yeah,
Right?
because they're not going to
Can't
come.
just play on
Or they'll come for
grass.
1 year and they won't come back.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like you said, you're trying to have that experience, right? So people walk away thinking, wow, this was a great memory that I've had and I'll remember for many years to come. And I want to have another memory, so I'm going to go back next year. Absolutely.
Totally.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's the way to do it.
And
Yeah.
we've had some hiccups. Like I think our first year in 2022, we did a modified event. We had a basketball court that we built on a slow pitch diamond, and
Okay.
it wasn't very good. And I'm kind of sad, but I mean, I didn't know. I
Yeah.
just got somebody that I thought could build one, and it didn't. It wasn't great. There were pockets of dulls. So now we're putting one in the festival area, but it's the one they use for Canada basketball. So I'm like, no, guys,
Right.
everybody, it's a good court this year. It's a good court this year. So there are going to be, but you learn, you do
You
the
learn.
best you
Yeah.
can. And, all I can say to anybody coming is, hey, you know what? We're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. I always try to do my due diligence and talking to anybody, athletes, festival goers, asking them what they liked, what they didn't like, what they'd like better. Because I mean, I think the women's soccer team is so shocked at how communicative I've been with them. But I said, look, I'm creating this for you. So you guys can tell me what would you want and what would make this event the best event for you. And is it always going to be perfect? No. Are we going to make mistakes? Yes, but we're going to try and make it better every
Yeah.
year.
Yeah. So then the idea is you're trying, you're communicating. So I'm sure you would have liked to have been asked what you
Sure.
guys would have wanted when you were traveling around, right? So yeah, I
Yeah,
think maybe
yeah.
just being asked and being included in the conversation is a big thing.
Well, I'm always for the, I'm a big believer for the athletes, by the athletes. I'm also, one of the founders of the Women's Soccer Alumni Association, and our slogan is like, for the women, by the women. Like, we're the ones that played the
Nice.
game, so
Yeah.
I think there's nobody better to give you feedback than the people that are out there. And I don't know, if, maybe other people don't do it. I have no idea, but I think that's the only way you can get, and sometimes you don't like hearing it, sometimes, you hear something, you're like, sometimes people are angry. Sometimes I'm very sensitive. So one thing, my marketing officer is like, you got to have thicker skin because I'll be like, why didn't they like it? um,
That's
we can
tough.
only do
Yeah.
our best, and you're going to have everybody come, and there's always going to be some that love it and some that don't, and try to make as many people happy as you can.
Yeah, that sounds like such a great ambition. Such a great ambition.
I hope
Wow,
so.
Helen, I think this is gonna be such a great thing. I think it's already been a great thing. It's gonna be even better this year. So I mean, I wish the best for you in this whole event. It sounds so friggin' fantastic. Everyone. That's the thing. It's not just fantastic for a few people, high level athletes. Just every kid that's gonna go there just gonna have a blast for sure. And they're gonna get to see all these high level athletes playing the games that they love and sports that they love in a great venue. I think you've really. It sounds like you've put together something really fantastic. Really, really fantastic. So I'm going to wish you all the best for this event, and I hope it goes without a hitch. Of course, like you said, I know there's going to be hiccups. There always are, but it sounds like you're on top of it. So you're doing the best that you can. It's
All you can
really going
do.
to work out.
All you can do. Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for, spreading the word. It's,
Of course,
something we're trying to get out there and let people know
yeah,
about it. And so anytime we can, share, and I love sharing my story because I think people need to hear the hard parts as much as the good parts. And there's just as
that's
many
right.
hard as there are good.
Yeah, that's the thing. And you see those athletes and they're just walking onto the pitch or they're walking onto a field or they're walking on, skating onto the ice or whatever they're doing. They always have this look on their face and they look, they're determined and ready to play, but you don't see all the struggles that
Yeah.
happen before then to get to that moment, right?
Yeah.
And that's when you see them in maybe doing sponsorships and endorsements and ads or talking on TV with, being interviewed or whatever. And you don't hear all that stuff. You just see the result, right? You see
Yeah.
where they are and what's going on, but you don't see, the dad that got up,
Yeah.
early in the morning or late at night or whatever to do all that stuff and the family behind those people. So it's, no, it's great. And but that's what it's all about in the sport. It's so much fun and yeah, the good games. I love it. I love the name. I love the whole bit. That's anyway. Thanks so much, Helen. I really
Thanks,
appreciate
Nick.
taking time to have a chat with me. And yeah, I really hope your event's a success.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
You're very